So this is the very first episode of my new YouTube series, and I'm really excited to bring you all on my journey for the next 18 weeks as I train for my first ever marathon. I don't necessarily envision this being a how-to series, but just a very real and open dialogue of both the good and bad times we all experience when training for a race of any distance, or really preparing for any big event in our lives. Now, before I get more into why a marathon or why I chose the race that I did, I want to share a little bit more about myself for those who don't know me as well. I wasn't always a runner. In fact, most of my life, I was not very athletic at all, and never really focused too much on my own health or wellness. I grew up most of my life always being overweight and pretty fine with that, as I'm always a big advocate for body positivity. That being said, I was pretty much allergic to anything remotely active or athletic. That especially involved running. In fact, in high school, I hated running so much that I would make up any excuse as to why I couldn't participate in warm-up runs or any sort of sport or activity that involved running. Granted, in my teens, I was diagnosed with an abnormal heart rhythm in which my resting heart rate was very high. But that also did not mean I could not participate in any sport or physical activity at all. Of course, my PE teachers did not know that, so I milked that excuse so much that I graduated high school overweight with no real sense of how to run or how to really take care of my body from a wellness standpoint. Now, of course, beyond just that layer of being lazy, deep down, it was also a very mental dialogue about I'm just not built to be that kind of person. I always excelled in more academic or creative pursuits, but being physically active was just not for me. Or so I believed, and I pretty much accepted it as fact. Now, I did end up losing a ton of weight in college, but fast forward about a year ago, which was about 5 years after graduating college, I surely enough ended up gaining back that weight and then some. I had reached a point where I was borderline morbidly obese. I was pre-hypertensive. I looked down at the scale and saw 243 pounds, which began to lit a flame inside of me to say, this is not okay. We need to do something about this. So after a lot more of convincing myself and finally letting go of the excuses, and I basically signed up to take spin class at Peloton as a way to exercise. I became very motivated and empowered through the classes and the instructors to challenge myself to running a 5K. And those first few weeks of training were not pretty. I was always thinking, why the hell did I pay to run 3.5 miles? Why is this so hard? You're not a runner. You will never be able to run a 5K nonstop or just run for 3 miles period. Well, at some point, that internal dialogue finally switched. I stopped being so critical of myself and learning to trust the process, that eventually this will feel better. Surely enough, it did. And what became Run Race turned into 11 more races, as you can see above me, all the way up to a half marathon. Through 2019, I lost over 70 pounds, but my focus of losing weight had shifted from I want to reach this goal weight to I want to become a stronger, faster, just all-around badass runner. And I'm pretty sure that is what kept me pushing through those tough weeks of training for my half, as someone who hated running for 26 years of his life to suddenly running 40 to 50 miles a week. It was a huge shift in mindset. So naturally, 2020 was coming around the corner, and I knew my next milestone would have to be to run a marathon. One of what will hopefully be many in my life. Now, if you happen to know me really well, or if you follow me on Instagram, you know I love a challenge. Now, my friends thought that the challenge for 2020 was that I'm running not just one, but 2 marathons. I'm from New York. How could I not be running the New York City Marathon? That was a no-brainer. But after reading Robin Arzon's book, Shut Up and Run, I remember seeing the Great Wall of China Marathon on her bucket list. Doing some more research into the course, the pace set, I knew that this was a real challenge that required grit and determination. Not to say any marathon does not, the distance alone is always a challenge, but something about scaling over 5,000 steps in combination with 26.2 miles in some wild ways spoke to me. I should mention these aren't just any cute old steps, they are ancient steps. These aren't your fancy glass, very short and sleek Apple Store steps. These are mean, uneven, stone, hand-built steps. Not to mention, there's a lot of hills on this course. And while I've found a new love for hills, these aren't your little hills that we have here in New York. One section of this marathon route is the infamous goat track, in which I've learned most runners end up climbing, and by climbing, I literally mean on their hands and knees. So really, it's more of a marathon boot camp. You get your running, you get your literal mountain climbers. It's gonna be really fun. Now, when I first set my eyes on running this race early last year, I was just a newbie runner, and I guess in many respects, as it comes to my years of experience, which is just about one, I guess I'm still a newbie. However, I have definitely learned a lot just even in my 1 year of running and training. But so when I first set my eyes on this race, I sort of arbitrarily came up with a goal of 3 hours. Making sure I have 3 here. I think part of my wild decision making was just I didn't want to run for more than 3 hours. Simple as that, at least for a marathon. Now, knowing what I know now, that was some pretty wild goal to set for various reasons. So many runners work years towards hitting a goal of running a marathon in 3 hours. This is people with far more experience and people far more fit than me. They've been running for a long time. Secondly, the course is challenging, and some parts of the course you will literally have to walk. And if you walked a distance race of any sort, you know stopping mid-run is pretty excruciating. Thirdly, when I started to do some research, I found out that the fastest ever recorded finishing time for the course for the men's group was about 3 hours and 8 minutes, and that was back in 2013. So when I set 3 hours as my goal, I had no idea I was setting a goal that was not only very fast, but also one in which I was trying to break the record for this course. Now, most logical, level-headed people at this point would say, okay, maybe time to rethink this goal. Maybe 4.5, or even 5 hours is a more reasonable and realistic goal. Or to hell with time, who cares how long it takes? Because running this distance, period, is a huge achievement. But remember what I said, I love a challenge. I should say I've been fortunate to see some major improvements with respects to my fitness and pace over the last year, and a 3 hour marathon is possible at some point for me, or hopefully it is. But I know it's going to take a lot of hard work, and hell, I may not even be able to do it for this race. I may even shift the goal as the series progresses, but that's okay with me. I think it's important to sometimes set scary goals that don't always seem attainable. As long as you're smart about it and don't fall down in the hole of overtraining or literally setting yourself up for failure. If there's one message I would love to give through this entire journey or series is that to never be afraid to dream big. And also don't be afraid to take the first step to working towards it. Because anything worth dreaming for is definitely worth working towards. So enough about me and my aspirations. I hope you continue to follow along. I'll be posting about 1 episode a week, recapping the week in terms of training, how I'm feeling, whether I'm meeting or not meeting my goals. I'll also dive more into my training plan on the next episode and recap the first week back into training and this fun journey. One last note, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, write a comment below. Message me either through YouTube or find me on my social. I'm the.other.beyonce on Instagram, and feel free to DM me there as well. I'm always happy to chat. Otherwise, thanks for watching and stay tuned for more.